EO is love and Puss in Boots is spending his last wish knocking down the cabin. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
So, welcome back to the show then, and we are starting with some brand new movies out this week, of course. So, we're going to start with Knock at the Cabin. So, this certainly sounds like a horror movie to me.
Well, I mean, and then some. I mean, I take it you're not aware of Knock at the Cabin from like the pre-release marketing or anything, Mr. Ball?
No, I've not really seen much about it at all, if I'm honest.
No, fair enough. Okay, so this is the latest movie to be written for the screen and directed by none other than M. Night Shyamalan. If you know anything about me, I'm an M. Night Shyamalan fan, I'm not ashamed to say. So, this stars Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, Ben Aldridge, Nicky Amuka-Bird, and Rupert Grint. Of all people. I want to say that again. Rupert Grint is in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. This is not a drill, people. This is really happening. Okay, so basic premise, because this is based on a novel, which I have actually read and had somehow forgotten about. Let me just find it's Paul Tremblay's novel, The Cabin at the End of the World. That's exactly the title was throwing me. So Paul Tremblay's The Cabin at the End of the World, adapted for the screen. I think, if memory serves, Shyamalan had sort of gotten the rights to this and started adapting it before it was actually published. So in the sort of pre-release stage. The premise here is you've got, a classy urbanite gay couple and their young adopted daughter. They're having some time away, family vacation, cabin in the middle of nowhere. And
of course.
One day, a man, I'm not going to say it, just Dave Bautista. Okay, because if I say a man, you're just going to imagine someone who looks normal. Okay, Dave Bautista. Okay, Dave bloody Bautista walks up to this little girl in the middle of the woods who's playing on her own and says, "Hi, me and my friends are going to knock at the door, and it's really important you let us in. We've got some important stuff to do, like the most important job in the world." And they freak her out, so she runs inside and tells her dads there's some scary people that are going to knock at the door. And then soon enough, they do. And they have some very specific demands. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you what those demands are. I'm going to let the clip do it for me, because I don't think I could possibly do it better than Dave Bautista.
We're not here to hurt you, but you have to stay here in the cabin with us. Families throughout history have been chosen to make this decision. Your family must choose to willingly sacrifice one of the three of you to prevent the apocalypse.
We're not sacrificing anyone.
For every no you give us, hundreds of thousands of people are going to die.
It's really happening.
Sweetheart, close your eyes.
Will you make a choice?
Whoa! I mean, that sounds awesome. It's got a touch of Saw to it, I'd say.
It's kind of like that. I mean, first of all, I thought this was great. I mean, I really love this. I did read the book. I will say I have read the book, so I can tell you this almost works like the opposite of The Mist. Now, the ending of the book plays a lot like the cinematic ending of The Mist, in that the ending of the film adaptation of The Mist is a real downbeat ending, whereas the one in the book is just a little bit more pleasant. You've got the exact opposite here, where the ending of the book is just one of the most horrific things, and the ending of the film is a little bit more pleasant. So just spoiler alert front on that one. This is great. I thought this is absolutely brilliant. Dave Bautista, you would not immediately look at and think, this is a guy who can absolutely be the antagonist of an M. Night Shyamalan movie. And yet, this is Bautista. And I think I did read somewhere that he was cast for this based on his appearance in Blade Runner 2049. And that is actually very, very good casting because this kind of plays along those lines. This is that soulful, very dour, apocalyptic kind of Bautista performance. This is not his action movie or even action comedy persona. This is his down and dirty, dour performance. Great cast, sharp writing. Shyamalan has always, to be honest, Shyamalan's always known how to frame a film, how to stage a film. It's never been a thing that he's particularly lacked. If Shyamalan's ever fallen short in any of his movies, I mean, and I am including The Happening in this when I say this, anyone who knows the Shyamalan, the Shyamaverse, as it were, kind of knows where Shyamalan has gone wrong in recent years. Shyamalan's faults, when they have reared their heads, have always been on the page rather than anywhere else. And to be fair, this is adapted material. So, he's kind of got a leg up there. This is not exactly his story to balls up. it works quite well. His particular cadence and style work very well with the material. The cast in there, particularly Jonathan Groff, I will say, because I think Jonathan Groff kind of plays a bit against type here. Jonathan Groff I think he's ex-Glee, if memory serves. I think he's the kid from the rival school in the first season of Glee, if memory serves.
Yeah.
He's also the love interest character in the Frozen movies. The one who not Elsa's boyfriend, Anna's partner in the Frozen movies. I want to say not Sven. I'm confusing my Frozen characters and my nephew.
Let it go.
Yeah, I'll let it go. Whatever snow does in summer. But but I think he plays against type quite well, because this works by basically taking an actor who most recently was seen playing two type as the unlikable persona of, rebooted Agent Smith in the Matrix reboot call, and here becoming something quite investable and using that smugness to quite interesting effect. Nikia Muka-Bird, though, I think is my MVP here. And she's one of those actresses, especially if you've seen Avenue 5 in the last couple of years, with the Armando Iannucci sort of spin on Red Dwarf with Hugh Laurie and Josh Gad, incidentally another Frozen alum. You're used to seeing her, I think, playing that sort of cringe comedy type. And here it's more of a drama element. And the performance is terrific. However, one that really shocked me, Rupert Grint. It's a short but very impactful performance. The story for this, like I say, you can just as easily read the book. We were embargoed on this, and I was kind of mystified by that, because I think I literally signed the embargo while saying, you realize some of us have read the book, right? You could literally hop on Wikipedia anytime. Like, most of us have phones. We could like, why are you embargoing this? It's only because the third act has basically changed a bit. But I will say, it works tremendously well. And as you'll hear from the trailer, it builds suspense very well. And it's like, if every no you give us, hundreds of thousands of people will die. That is played in both iterations of this story to quite harrowing and tremendously impactful effect. I don't think it's Shyamalan's best movie, because you'll never get past, the original three, the first three Shyamalan movies, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs. Those are always, I think, going to be the high watermark of M. Night. But post those, I think this is pretty darn hard to beat. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think this works. I don't think it will particularly let anyone down. I think if you are a fan of The Mist, certainly go and check this out, because there's a certain commonality between the two. Obviously, there is no actual mist. This seems to take place in summer, so no actual mist. But it is quite a contained and insular film that is about human horror, human-driven interpersonal terror. And in the hands of Shyamalan, and particularly Batista, Nikia Muka-Bird, and Jonathan Groff, I think that goes down gangbusters. I think this is an absolute cracker. It's out in cinemas from today. Knock at the Cabin. It is a 15, so it is one for the adults, and it is for a reason. Like I say, it is quite chilling. It is quite disturbing. If they had gone with some of the stuff that is in the book for the third act, believe me, this might have been rated higher. But I think what is there worked very, very well.
I mean, I'm sold just from the trailer that you played at the start. And I don't know if you caught this, but Shyamalan was actually on, I think it was either Jonathan Ross or one of the other chat shows recently, talking about all of his movies. And actually, it was quite fascinating to hear him talk. I mean, I don't know if you've seen one of those kind of interviews with him or not.
I watched James King's... Obviously, James is a friend. I watched his, I think it was Radio 2 interview this week with him. And, first of all, I always find M. Night Shyamalan a fascinating guy anyway. But what's really intrigued me in the last few years with Shyamalan has been that he's been doing all this stuff independently. Like, the guy literally mortgaged his house has been mortgaging his house to fund these movies. And his work with, like, Blumhouse and the creative control he's getting as a result of that, absolutely tremendous. Like, I think we are entering, like, any time now, we are going to get the Shyamalan movie that will be the best one of his career. Like, I do believe we have not seen the best that he will crank out yet. He's not Hitchcock, but I think as far as modern equivalents go, he's definitely one of the better ones. And I think any day now, he is going to turn out what will eventually land as his masterpiece.
Well, this is on my list to watch 100%. Knock at the Cabin, out in cinemas from today. So stay right where you are, because we're going to be back in just a bit. We're going to talk about... I Get Knocked Down! Yeah, there it is. You'll be hearing much more of that, and there's a clue about what it's about, and She Is Love, both to be reviewed by Van in just a bit. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to the show. So let's continue talking about some more new movies out this week. And I think now's the time we talk about... I Get Knocked Down! So, Van, there is a big clue in there somewhere. What is this all about?
I mean, if you couldn't guess it from the button we've been so surreptitiously dropping, this is, and I can't believe this exists. I'm very happy this exists. This is the Chumbawamba documentary that is, in fact, out from today. Which follows Chumbawamba lead singer, for lack of better terms. I don't think Chumbawamba really have a lead singer specifically, but for what we would view as the lead singer, Dunstan Bruce of Chumbo. You know, the guy with the peroxide blonde hair who literally did the This follows him. He's now an old man. He's now like, late middle age, getting to that sort of ennui stage of his life. What does it all mean? And he's starting to look back on just what it was all about. What was it all for? The world is terrible, don't you know? The Tories are in government. Life is crap. Why did they do all of this activism, all of this anarchy? What was it all in aid of? And he starts to look back on what Chumbawamba stood for, what they achieved, what they got up to, and frankly, what their legacy was. Have a listen.
You sold out and it all went wrong and you shouldn't have done it.
The mainstream, press, they hated us. The really, really purist DIY punks, they hated us.
The blood of all the anarcho-punks that died when this came out.
I was concerned that you were a voice of moderation.
Sorry, Shirley, but your son Nigel is...
All of your efforts went largely, just over everyone's head.
Like, I don't know what went down. Like, you do seem a little rattled.
To be pushed.
See, this is an interesting one because we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't know that the history of Chumbawamba. I didn't know there was so much before I Get Knocked Down.
It's like they were in existence for at least a decade before. I've seen so many like YouTube retrospectives, sort of discography analyses, things like that. I'm a big fan of like Mike the Snare on YouTube, which tells you a lot about what my YouTube algorithm is like. And I actually did watch a Mike the Snare episode about Chumbawamba once, but also I owned this album. I'm just going to say completely up front, I genuinely think Tub Thumping is probably one of the best pop singles, if not of all time, certainly of the 1990s, and one of the definitive sounds of 1996, alongside, for instance, the Macarena. It's one of those that that was that year in a nutshell. If you showed aliens based entirely on listening to broadcast media via satellite and asked them what like 1996 sounded like, odds are they'd say it's probably the Macarena or Tub Thumping, one or the other. Maybe Baby Bird's You're Gorgeous if you're being really charitable. I don't think Spaceman carried over into that year. But this is the thing. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to the story than, as you say, you would have known. They were an anarcho-punk, activist group going back from the mid-'80s, and all the way up to, I think, round about the millennium kind of time. They were actually on the Stigmata soundtrack as late as 1999. I remember that because the song Amnesia is on that soundtrack, and I'm a big fan of the movie Stigmata. Dunstan Bruce, who I think is now 59 years old, proves to be quite an interesting documentary subject. He's quite morose, he's quite deadpan. As you can hear from the clip, he's not afraid to poke fun at himself. He's teaming here with documentary filmmaker and sort of subsequent writer-director Sophie Robinson is interesting, and we do get to sort of go back and analyse the journey. We go all the way back to Leeds, to this house, I think it's Southfield House that they lived in the mid-'80s, and it was this just this crap, rundown, massive, derelict house that this anarcho-punk group just moved into. None of them could play instruments, and they just palled around and did whatever they wanted to, and some of the members of this band were like 15 at the time, and just like, by their own admittance, like just wanted to live in this house because there's a lot of women getting their kit off all the time, and occasionally they were called upon to play an instrument that they didn't know how to play, and it comes to explain a lot about Chumbawamba, but it also gets into both the overnight success and subsequent controversy that surrounded the band, because I don't know if you're aware of some of the activism that happened post the release of Tub Thumping. But what happened was they started modifying their own lyrics to fit whatever work of activism, whatever movement and whatever protest they wanted to support at the time. And this included, the dock workers, people who were on death row, things like that. One of their number, Amy Nutter, famously went on US television on the Bill Maher show, I think it's called now, the Bill Maher show, and advocated, if you can't afford our music, steal it from Virgin Megastore. They can afford it. And was called out on it, like, you wouldn't steal from the corner shop, but you'd steal from Virgin Megastore. And her response was, yeah, because they can afford it. And it was that level of, down and dirty. By today's standards, they weren't that revolutionary. And that's something that the documentary really interestingly points out. Chumbawamba were actually ahead of their time. In terms of how they behaved, the things they did, they were genuinely ahead of the curve. If you did any of this stuff now, wouldn't even make Digital Spy.
Yeah.
But, made the front page of The Sun, 96, 97. Also, I will say, I had forgotten that Ben Elton had hosted, I think it was the 96 Brit Awards, 97 Brit Awards.
I remember that.
Yeah, interesting thing to remember. I had forgotten that one. It's so weird to see Ben Elton being popular and on telly.
With his little round glasses.
With his little round glasses, I know.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, this is an absolute retro nostalgia throwback. I mean, even if you don't particularly want to know anything about the band, even if you're just a fan of the era, it's interesting to watch this and view that era again through the prism of this story. I will also say, bit of trivia that I didn't know: the only person outside of Chumbawamba ever allowed to change the lyrics to Tub Thumping. Do you know who that was, Mr. Ball?
No idea.
It was Homer Simpson. The Simpsons were the only people ever allowed to change the lyrics to Tub Thumping. So say Chumbawamba and Dunstan Bruce. So that's called I Get Knocked Down. It's in cinemas from today. It's a really fun, just really boppy, all over the shop, whizzy little documentary. I think it's about 88 minutes long. From today, I Get Knocked Down. Worth checking out. Just a fun throwback pick.
I like that, especially the length. I mean, that is a perfect length for something like this, I think. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on then to She Is Love. Now, this is about a divorced couple that come back together after a period of time.
Yeah, you were just saying about the length of that last one. It was 88 minutes. This is 82. No. 82 minutes. This is 6 entire minutes shorter, and yet somehow feels 6 hours longer. So, written and directed for the screen by Jamie Adams, whose directorial work to date basically suggests that, he is kind of a jobbing British director. Fair play to him. This is kind of a, on the cheap, relatively confined, insular, character-driven, like a stage play kind of drama. Stars Sam Riley and Hayley Bennett as the divorced couple who reunite in effectively a remote cottage hotel, kind of a remote country house hotel kind of an idea. He's there with the new partner. She's there just getting away from it all. They reunite, start to hash out all their former differences. We've not got a clip for this one. I'll be really honest. Hang on, I think we have actually. Hang on. Oh, we have. Hang on. We have got a clip for this. My bad. Right. Brace yourself for this. This is not the most entertaining clip in the world. It's because obviously I forgot we had it. Here's a clip from She Is Love.
My ex-wife is upstairs.
What?
Yeah. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought you'd invited her, but then I wondered why you would even do that. But then I realized that would be crazy.
I would never. Do that.
Why? So she's just here
because
she's a guest.
No wonder you forgot you had that clip to play. I mean, that is a little bit wow, I didn't even know the word.
Right, I'm going to show you this for the camera, genuinely. Okay, on my iPad screen, there are 4 notes. Okay, now I'm glad that it doesn't focus in too much because there's some bad words used in here. The first one of these 4 notes absolutely berates the streaming platform through which they sent the link for this because it's terrible. Please, publicists, stop using the indie platform to send journalists links. It's awful. If you've not got an app that runs on a television, don't bother, please. I don't want to have to watch films on my laptop. I'm not at uni. It's not 2008. Right, next 3 points. Everybody in this movie is insufferable. After that, what a meandering, asinine time suck. And after that, how TF did a man with Riley's non-existent charisma here land one lady, let alone two? This is absolute garbage. Honest to God, by the end of this, I was like Sam Neill in Event Horizon. I wanted to pull my own eyes from my skull and hold them up before the world. This was agonizing. Like, I am all for, I mean, you know, power to the people and the British filmmaking community for having to make films with the limitations we have, things like that. Like, I understand that. This is budget effective. This is, you know, obviously this is meant to be a performance piece, but for the love of God, make them interesting. This is, oh, good Lord. I honestly, I could, by the end of this.
It's a fair want.
I don't think it's too much to ask. By the end of this, not only did I absolutely understand why this couple was divorced, I was glad. I was glad, and I wanted them to be alone and miserable separately forever, because I hated every single second of this film. Like I say, it felt like it lasted an eternity. Sam Riley, I thought, was just this black hole through which charisma not only was sucked, but ceased to exist. It evaporated within the space-time continuum. Haley Bennett, I honestly don't know what the performance is meant to be, because it just seems to be this dead-eyed stare to camera for a lot of the time. And yeah, I mean, I will
here's
say,
a challenge for you. I'll give you a challenge. Can you name one thing you liked about it?
It ended.
Well, there we have it then. That's the review done, really. Not much more to say, is there?
Review done. Nil poir. Hated the crap out of it. I never want to see it again. I never want to be reminded it existed. Honest to God, she is not love. She is boredom. There you go. Review done.
There you go. And if you do want to make your own mind up, then it is out in cinemas from today. Right, stay right there. We're going to be talking donkeys in a minute. So Van's going to review EO and also Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. So stay right there. Hello and welcome back then for one last ride. So more brand new movies to talk about now, and let's talk about EO, the donkey.
Well, this is the thing, because we're going to be talking about a donkey and then Puss in Boots. So we really are going down the Shrek route for the third act of this one this week, aren't we? EO, which I believe is still pronounced EO in its native Polish, but is spelt IO in Polish. New movie from Jerzy Skolimowski. I'm going to go with the IMDb description of this. Follows a donkey who encounters on his journeys good and bad people, experiences joy and pain, experiencing a vision of modern Europe through his eyes. Which is a nice way of saying, here's a film about a donkey being a donkey and just existing and going through the world. It's mostly silent.
It sounds more like a description for a cruise, to be honest.
How many cruises do you go on with donkeys, Mr. Ball? Really?
Well, that'd be telling.
Right. This isn't in black and white, but may as well be, to be really honest. It's one of those that's just got the really sort of just drowned out colour palette to an extent. And it's one, like, the story literally just follows this donkey through, you know, a wandering spree, effectively. Isabelle Huppert is probably the biggest name in this. It's all subtitles where there is dialogue, but it is largely dialogue free. Like I say, it follows a donkey. And, right, this was on at the LFF. I think back in November. I didn't catch it. I remember my good friend Matt Turner telling me how great it was, how wonderful this was. And prior to watching this, I checked out the Rotten Tomatoes page for this, just to see what the critics, I almost say crickets, what the critics' aggregate score for this was. It was a whopping 96%. So as you can imagine, I went into this with a certain level of enthusiasm. I thought, cool, yeah, I'll enjoy this. 96%, it's got to be good, right? Like 96%, that's like first Black Panther. That's that level of good, you know?
Yeah.
And good Lord, no, not at all. Right, every now and again, it would be really nice if some of my peers actually bothered to watch the film, rather than fixating on the way their nipples feel chafing against the insides of their cardigans. Because, good Lord, this was an ordeal. Now, going with the recurring theme of this week, where our movies tend to fall under 90 minutes, this is, again, 88 minutes long. and feels so much longer, largely by virtue of the fact that it's dialogue-free. Like I say, Isabelle Huppert, largely the biggest name in there. I didn't even recognise it particularly as I was watching this. I found it quite uninteresting. It's one of those movies that I watched and just thought, I feel like this is art for the sake of art. I mean, to capitalise on the MGM slogan, it's art with an F, for lack of a better term. It is. I'm trying to pick a word I can say that's broadcastable. If I'm being honest, that I don't have to like come back in post and bleep. But I'm really struggling because, frankly, this was donkey crap, for lack of a better term. The only way I could describe it is this was straight up cinematic manure to me. I hated it. I found it really uninteresting. I didn't think there was much going for it. I wasn't particularly enthralled by it, captivated by it, enamored by it, endeared by it. I just thought it was straight up manure. I'd rather never see it again, and that's really about all I have to say on the subject.
I'm puzzled in my own head trying to picture how this looks on the screen. Are we talking like a GoPro on the back of a donkey? Or are we talking Lassie where people go, what is it you're saying, donkey? Oh, you want some water? Let's go and get, like, how is it framed?
We're literally more in the Lassie vein, except they're not talking to the donkey. They usually just show up, be mean to the donkey, and then sod off for 88 minutes, which I hated it. I really did. I mean, we watched one of these a couple of years ago. It was called Cow. That was literally the same movie with a cow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know what this weird-ass European subgenre is all about, but I really wish they'd stop. Like, it's getting too much now. For the love of God, stop. Like, was
it a low-budget movie?
I don't care. I don't care what Arts Council funding they're getting. Stop. Look, nobody's paying to see it. Nobody cares. You know, you're not getting your awards. I think this probably did get nominated for Best International. I think it did actually get nominated for Best International Feature, which kind of confirms to exactly how full of crap the Oscars are nowadays. Enough. Just please, enough. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody's paying to see it. It's going to make no money. Stop. I know you want your name in The Guardian, but stop.
Well, there you have it. If you want to watch The Life of a Donkey, go and see EO, which is in cinemas from today. Right, our final movie to chat about tonight. I have a feeling this is going to be slightly more of a positive review. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Prove me right.
So, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I'm happy to confirm, is probably the second best movie we've got this week.
Phew!
I'd put it ahead of I Get Knocked Down and just behind Knock at the Cabin, if I'm being honest. I will also say it's the second best Shrek movie after the first one. Okay, or at the very least, it's tied with Shrek Forever After. Okay, so basic premise: this is sometime after the events of the first Puss in Boots, and all which itself took place after all of the Shrek movies. Puss in Boots is just off living his life, being a cool hero. Every now and again the townspeople need someone to defend them, and he just kicks back off his bar stool where he's used to just kicking back and just being loved. Picks up his rapier, throws on his hat, goes out, kicks some ass, and then just goes back to the bar, sinks a few more drinks, and that is Puss in Boots' life. Gets his first strokes by all the local hotties. What's not to love? And then one day, a wolf rocks into town. Except this wolf is Death, literally. And Death tells him, "It's your time. Your number is up. I have come to take your soul. It turns out you're getting old. You have used all of your lives. You are down to your last one. I have come to take you to hell." And Puss in Boots says, "Not today, Death." And he sets off to find the mythical Last Wish, which he believes will be able to restore the 8 lives that he has squandered, throughout all of his adventures. And teams up with an old flame, voiced by Salma Hayek, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Harvey Guillen from What We Do in the Shadows, who's I think it's really a little rabbit, little rodent, I forget, with little rabbit, rodent, something like that. Yeah, and they set off on a quest to find the Last Wish, using a treasure map that basically changes the journey depending on who is reading the map. So if you're a person with a dark soul, it gives you a haunted forest that you have to go through. If you are Perito, or Harvey Guillen's character, and you're the nicest person in the universe, and you read the map, you get a forest you get a nice little pond that's covered in marshmallows, for instance. And I'll give you a clip. Okay, these are the bickering ex-lovers arguing over just how to get there.
Whoa. Wow. For a dark forest, this place is pretty colorful. I wish I had my quinceañera here.
The wishing star is in here, somewhere. Kitty, may I please see the map?
No.
Seriously? You won't let me hold it for even 1 minute?
Nope, not even for 1 second.
Come on, Kitty. You've got to trust me.
Wait, what's going on with his eyes?
Oh, they're getting bigger. Oh, Kitty! You gotta trust him. Look at those eyes.
Yeah, you know exactly what he's doing with those eyes as well.
I mean, I like the sound of that, especially I've got a 4-year-old son, as you know, and this is the sort of thing I can feel that he'll get sucked into and he'll really enjoy, as well as, by the sounds of it, the adult jokes that kids will go over their heads but will understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I will also say, I mean, first of all, they get an extra star from me just for having Florence Pugh in the cast, because that's my rule. If you've got Queen Flo in there, you automatically get an extra star from me. There's loads of little Shrek cameos in the background as well. This is a notable departure on the animation side from the previous Shrek movies. This is a lot more stylized than the sort of boilerplate DreamWorks CG animation style of the other Shrek movies, and even the first Puss in Boots. I will say that Harvey Guillen's character, Perito, you could hear in the clip there, he is just a whole vibe. Whole vibe unto himself, and he's kind of worth the movie in his own right. There's tons of like Zorro nods with this, because obviously if you've got Antonio Banderas, just do the Zorro thing, and they are going there. Their version of Puss in Boots, it's worth noting, is a lot more like Zorro. It's simultaneously both the darkest and I think funniest Shrek movie. Certainly since the first one. At the very least, as I say, it's quite effective in combining both its writing and the relatively new aesthetic, that new style, to basically build depth and suspense, particularly when it comes to its villain, who quite feasibly could scare some younger kids in a good way. In that way that sort of kids need to learn to be scared, sort of acceptably scared, and to learn like how that works. This is very much one of those. Like I could see, I know my best friend's son jumped out of his skin when he saw the villain of this movie, and I can completely understand it. He will go back to it though the next weekend because he'll love the movie. He'll go back to it the next weekend and probably still be terrified, but it'd be one of those things like we all have that, oh god, remember when I was a kid and that thing scared me, and this is going to be that for kids, for a few kids, I think. And I thought that quite works. There is a note on the end, so do stick around through the credits for this, because there is an indication as to where this is going. It's a bit more predictable than I would have liked, but fair enough. And of course, it's just always nice to have Banderas and Salma Hayek reunite in anything. The Desperado couple are back together. What is not to love? That makes me so happy. Desperado is one of my all-time favorite movies, and to have those two sharing the screen again, even in animated form, as animated cats, completely works for me. I had a blast with this. I did laugh, I did whoop, I did cheer. I was in suspense. It actually did keep me guessing, which for a Shrek spin-off, I wasn't expecting in the slightest. And like I say, loads of little cameos and nods in there. I mean, Gingy makes a cameo. Gingerbread Man character, Gingy makes a cameo. Big fan, love it. There's loads of little nods like that. Whether you like the Shrek series or not, I would recommend checking this out if you've got kids. And if you are a Shrek fan, you don't have kids, check it out anyway. Absolutely worth watching. It's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It's 2 thumbs up for me, and it's in cinemas from today.
All right, well, that's all we've got time for this week. We are going to be back next week, and we are going to be, well, I'd say it's about body oil and pecs for the start of next week. Magic Mike's Last Dance.
Yeah, well, we've just had Salma Hayek, in animated form, so let's get her back in sweaty human form for next week, because I think she is the love interest in Magic Mike's Last Dance. I think she replaced Thandiwe Newton when she was sacked from it, apparently. We have also got, and I'm quite looking forward to this, Epic Tales next week, which is a British animated film about all of the Greek myths, told from the perspective of animated animals who happen to be nearby at the time, and they are voiced by Josh Widdicombe and Rob Beckett and Giovanna Fletcher and people like that. So
brilliant.
Kind of thing I would imagine you and Albert would enjoy, definitely.
Yeah.
Nothing Lasts Forever is next week, which I'll be honest with you, I've looked into and I couldn't tell you what that's about, because the description of it is just wonderfully vague. Blue Jean, which is about a teacher and students sort of struggle with their sexuality. And this has been nominated for Oscars, so I'm really looking forward to seeing this. This is Sarah Polley's new movie. Again, this was at LFF. I didn't get to see it. I have got the Oscar screener for it, though, so I'm looking forward to being able to watch this one finally. Women Talking is finally out next week. So when Sarah Polley's involved, stand up and take notice. This I'm very much looking forward to.
Wow, lots to look forward to review next week then. So all of those to come on Off Screen. So until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.